Congratulations, Harriette, the loan officer said, sliding the folder toward me. Everything looks strong. I smiled so hard, my cheeks hurt. For 3 years, I had skipped vacations, packed lunch, worked double shifts, and ignored every apartment with bad plumbing, because I kept telling myself one thing. This was temporary. This tiny office was supposed to be the last step before my first home. Then his smile disappeared. He clicked once. Then again. Then he stopped moving. Is something wrong? I asked. He didn't answer right away. He just turned the monitor toward me. There were my name, my social security number, and a balance I had never seen in my life. 47,382 cents. My hands went cold. I called my mother from the parking lot, thinking there had to be a mistake. She answered like nothing was wrong. Mom, I said, staring at the report, why is there $47,000 of debt in my name? She went quiet. Then she said, we needed help. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. For a second, I couldn't hear anything except the cars passing behind me. Not her breathing, not my own. Just tires on wet pavement and the sound of my life folding in half. I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. Mom sighed. Not panicked. Not ashamed. Annoyed. Harriette, don't start yelling. I looked through the windshield at the loan office doors. People were walking in with folders, walking out with handshakes, moving forward with their lives. I was sitting in my car with a credit report on my lap and my mother acting like I had interrupted dinner. Who is we? Another pause. Then she said, your father and I had bills. Calvin needed help with the business. Things got tight. Calvin. My younger brother. The golden emergency. The one who could fail upward and still get defended like he was one good break away from greatness. The one whose mobile detailing company had new equipment, a wrapped truck, and somehow never any profit. I pressed the paper flat against the steering wheel. There are credit cards, I said. A personal loan. Store accounts. A medical financing account. Mom, these are in my name. You weren't using your credit. The words hit harder than the number. Not because they were loud. Because they were practiced. Like she had said them before. Like she had rehearsed the excuse long before I ever found the damage. I was about to use it, I said. I was buying a house. You can still buy us house later. My chest tightened. Later. Like 3 years of saving was a small delay. Like the lender's face hadn't gone stiff. Like I hadn't just watched the word approved disappear because my parents had treated my name like a spare wallet. Did Dad know? She didn't answer fast enough. That told me something. Mom, your father has enough stress. That is not an answer, she snapped then. Quiet, but sharp. You have no idea what we've been dealing with. I laughed once. It came out ugly. I'm the one dealing with it now. There was movement on her end, a chair scraping, a muffled voice. Then my father, distant, saying, Denise, who is that? My stomach dropped again. He sounded confused. Mom covered the phone, but not well enough. It's Harriette, she hissed. Then another voice cut in, Calvin. Is she at the bank? The air left my lungs. Not what happened. Not is she okay? Is she at the bank? I sat up straighter, every nerve suddenly awake. What does Calvin know? Mom came back too fast. Nothing. He doesn't need to be dragged into this. He just asked if I was at the bank. Because you've been talking about that condo nonstop, she said. Everybody knows you had an appointment. No. That answer slid into place too cleanly. I had mentioned the appointment once. At Sunday dinner, Mom had asked what time. Calvin had been on his phone. Dad had smiled and said he was proud of me. Mom had cried in the kitchen that night while helping me load leftovers into plastic containers. My baby's getting a home, she had said. Now my hands were shaking so badly the credit report bent under my fingers. You knew today was my approval appointment. Mom said nothing. You knew this would show up. Still nothing. I looked at the balances again, dates, account names, minimum payments, late notices. The oldest account was 18 months old. The newest one was opened 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks. After I had told them I found a place. After I had sent Mom pictures of the kitchen. After she had texted back, this one feels like you. My throat burned. How did you even open these? I asked. She exhaled like I was asking an unnecessary question. Harriette, how? Silence. Then she said, you gave me your information. 4 insurance forms. It was still your information. The world narrowed, the dashboard, the folder, her voice. My name at the top of accounts I never touched. You used my social security number. We used what we had to use. I closed my eyes. There it was. Not an accident. Not a misunderstanding. Not one emergency card that got out of control. A decision. A chain of decisions. And she was still saying, we like that made it softer. I opened my eyes and saw Mr. Patel through the glass door of the office. He was at the front desk now, holding another stack of papers, talking to the receptionist. He looked over once and his expression shifted. Pity. I hated that. I hated that a stranger understood what my own mother refused to admit. I'm giving you one chance, I said. Tell me every account, every card, every loan. Right now. Mom's voice dropped. Do not threaten me. I'm not threatening you. You call me, accusing me like I'm some criminal? You put $47,000 of debt in my name. We kept this family afloat. You kept Calvin afloat. Her breathing changed. Fast, thin, that hit something. Leave your brother out of this. No, Harriette, no. I want the truth. Then Calvin's voice came closer, loud and panicked. Mom, hang up. My skin prickled. I gripped the phone. Why does he want you to hang up? Mom whispered. Calvin, stop. But he didn't. He shouted, clear enough for every word to cut through the speaker. Don't let her find the email. And the line went dead. I stared at my phone. Call ended, no apology, no explanation, no panic about me. Just that one sentence still ringing in my ear. Don't let her find the email. I tried calling back. Straight to voicemail. Again. Voicemail. I texted one word. Email. The message showed delivered. No reply. Then 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Nothing. My mother was choosing her next lie carefully. I sat there with the credit report sliding off my lap, my heart punching against my ribs, while people kept walking past my car like I wasn't sitting inside the exact moment my family became evidence. I grabbed the report and flipped through the pages again. Account 1. Opened 18 months ago. Balance. 8,904. Account 2. Opened 15 months ago. Balance. 12,110. Account 6,079 months ago. Balance personal loan. Opened 7 months ago. $14,500. Retail card. Opened 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks. That was the one that made my vision blur. 6 weeks ago, my mother had sat across from me at Sunday dinner, asking about paint colors. She had tapped through photos of the condo on my phone. She had zoomed in on the kitchen backsplash and said, "You always did like bright spaces." Then she hugged me at the door, both arms tight, her cheek pressed to mine. And somewhere around that same time, somebody had used my name again. I got out of the car because I couldn't breathe inside it anymore. The air was cold, wet, heavy. Mr. Patel opened the lender's office door before I could reach it. Harriette, he said softly, are you okay? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to be the person I had been 40 minutes ago. The woman with a pre-approval packet. The woman with savings. The woman whose biggest fear was whether the inspection would find old wiring. Instead, I held up the report. I need copies of everything you can legally give me. His face tightened. You believe this is fraud? I know it is. He stepped aside immediately. No judgment, no lecture, just action. That nearly broke me. A stranger believed me faster than my own mother admitted the truth. He took me into a smaller office, closed the door, and printed the full report. Not the clean summary, the ugly version. Dates, creditors, balances. Partial account numbers. Addresses connected to the accounts. He handed each page over like he knew they were sharp. Some of these accounts list a mailing address that does not match your apartment, he said. I looked down. My parents' address. My childhood home. The house with the cracked front step. The kitchen where Mom kept the cookie tin full of receipts. The dining room where Dad used to make me check my math homework twice because numbers don't care about excuses. My throat locked. That's my parents' house. Mr. Patel's jaw shifted. He clicked into another screen and pointed without touching the paper. There is also an email associated with at least one of the trade lines. We can't see the full address, but sometimes creditors can confirm it if you call directly. The email. Calvin's voice came back. Don't let her find the email. I stood so fast the chair scraped backward. Can I call from here? Of course. My hands were shaking as I dialed the first credit card company. The automated menu dragged me through options like it had all the time in the world. I didn't. When a representative finally answered, I gave my name, my date of birth, the last 4 digits of my social security number, and then I said the words that made everything real. I believe this account was opened fraudulently. The representative's tone changed. Professional, careful. She asked if I recognized the mailing address. I said yes. She asked if I had ever authorized anyone to open the card. I said no. She asked if I wanted to hear the email on file. My pulse slammed. Yes. There was a pause, keyboard clicking. Then she read it out slowly. Harriette.29.mail at I cut in. That's not mine, but it was close. Too close. My name, my age when the account opened. My life arranged into a fake door someone else had walked through. The representative continued. There is a phone number associated with verification. I can only provide the last 4 digits. Read them. She did. I didn't move. I didn't blink. Those 4 numbers were my mother's. Mr. Patel looked at me from across the desk and I watched his expression settle into something heavier. Not suspicion anymore. Confirmation. I thanked the representative, wrote everything down, and called the next creditor. Same pattern. My parents' address. Paperless billing. A different account, same fake email, same phone number. Then the personal loan company gave me something worse. The application included uploaded identification, the agent said. My fingers tightened around the pen. What kind? A driver's license. The room tilted. I had not lost my license. I had not scanned it for any loan. Then I remembered. 2 years ago. Mom in her kitchen, standing beside the printer with her reading glasses on top of her head. Harriette, send me a picture of your license for the insurance paperwork. The agent needs it. I had sent it without thinking. Because she was my mother. Because she had packed my lunches. Because she remembered my dentist appointments. Because she still called me when storms were bad and told me to drive carefully. Because I thought love came with limits. Apparently, hers came with credit lines. My phone buzzed. Mom, not a call, a text. You need to calm down before you do something you can't take back. I stared at it. Then another came in. Your father is upset. Then another. Calvin doesn't deserve to be punished because you are embarrassed. Embarrassed. I was not embarrassed. I was locked out of the house I had earned because my parents had turned my identity into a family credit card. I typed back with one thumb. I'm coming over. Have every statement ready. The reply came immediately. No. That single word told me there was more. I put the printed report into a folder. Mr. Patel gave me a list of steps. Fraud departments, police report, identity theft affidavit, credit freezes. I heard him, but my mind was already at my parents' front door. The fake email, the scanned license. The accounts opened after I mentioned the condo. Calvin asking if I was at the bank. None of this was random. None of this was desperate impulse. It was organized. I drove across town with the folder on the passenger seat, my phone lighting up every few minutes. Mom. Don't bring drama to my house. Mom. We can talk later. Mom. You're hurting this family. Calvin. You better not come over acting crazy. Dad. Please come talk. Dad's message stopped me at a red light. Not I'm sorry. Not I didn't know. Just please come talk. The light turned green. I drove faster. When I pulled up, every curtain in the front window moved. They were watching. My childhood home sat there like it hadn't just become the place my life was stolen from. Same porch swing. Same flower pots. Same dent in the garage door from when Calvin backed into it at 17, and somehow I got blamed for distracting him. I got out with the folder under my arm. Before I even reached the steps, the front door opened. Mom stood there in her church cardigan, hair neat, face tight, eyes fixed on the folder. Not on me, the folder. Behind her, I could see Dad standing near the hallway, pale and frozen. And Calvin was half hidden behind the kitchen wall, phone already in his hand. Mom blocked the doorway. You are not bringing police paperwork into my house. I looked her dead in the face. Then step outside and explain the fake email. Mom's face changed so fast I almost missed it. 1 second, she was offended. The next, afraid. Then the mask came back down. What fake email? She said. Calvin moved behind her. Not much, just half a step, enough. I saw his shoulder tense. I saw his thumb slide over his phone screen. Recording. Of course he was recording. He wanted evidence of me acting crazy before I even opened my mouth. I lifted the folder. The one attached to the credit cards. The one using my name. The one Calvin didn't want me to find. Mom's eyes flicked toward him. Tiny. Fast. Guilty. Dad saw it too. He swallowed and looked at the carpet. I stepped onto the porch. Mom didn't move. Move, I said. This is still my house. And this is still my identity. Her mouth tightened. Behind her, Calvin said, You hear how she talks to you? I looked past Mom. Put the phone down. He smirked. Nah, people should see how you really are. There it was. The setup. Make me loud. Make me emotional. Make me the problem. Turn $47,000 of fraud into a video clip where I looked ungrateful. I forced my voice lower. Good. Record this. Calvin's smirk faded. I opened the folder and pulled out the first page. Account opened 18 months ago. Mailing address. This house. Phone verification, mom's number. Email, fake account using my name. Mom said, "You don't know what you're reading." I called the creditor from the lender's office. Dad looked up. Mom shot him a warning glance. I pulled out the second page. Personal loan. Opened 7 months ago. Driver's license, uploaded, hit harder. Dad's face went gray. He turned to Mom. Denies. Mom snapped, "Not now." I laughed once. Hard. Bitter. Not now, when then? After my mortgage falls through completely. After collection starts calling my job. After you open another card? Calvin stepped into the doorway. You always think you're better than everybody. I stared at him. I think I'm better than identity theft. He flinched. Mom lifted her hand like she was stopping traffic. Lower your voice. I am standing outside because you won't let me inside. Because you came here attacking us. I came here with proof. Dad finally moved. He walked around Mom and opened the door wider. Let her in. Mom turned on him. Marcus. He didn't look at her. He looked at me. His eyes were wet, and that scared me more than his silence. Come in, Harriette. Mom stepped aside like it physically hurt her. I walked into the house with the folder pressed against my chest. Everything smelled the same. Lemon cleaner. Coffee. The lavender candle Mom lit when company came over. But this didn't feel like my childhood home anymore. It felt staged. Too neat. Too quiet. Like they had been preparing for me, but not for the truth. Dad sat in his recliner, not all the way back, on the edge. Hands clasped tight. Calvin leaned against the wall near the hallway, still holding his phone up. Mom stayed standing. She always stood when she wanted control. I placed the papers on the coffee table. Not gently. Which accounts are yours? No one answered. The refrigerator hummed from the kitchen. A clock ticked above the mantel. Calvin scoffed first. You're really doing this? Yes. Over money? Over fraud. Mom said, words matter. Harriette. So do signatures. Her lips pressed together. I slid the personal loan page toward her. Did you sign this? She looked away. Dad closed his eyes. Calvin said, nobody signed anything. It's online. Everybody clicks stuff. I turned to him. Was your business paid with this? His face twitched. A small thing, but I caught it. Mom caught it too. Leave Calvin out of this, she said. No, he's in it. He didn't open anything. I didn't ask if he opened it. I asked if my stolen credit paid for his business. Calvin pushed off the wall. My business is not stolen. Then show me the statements. He laughed too loudly. You don't get to demand my private records. You used my private identity. Mom slammed her palm on the coffee table. Enough to make the papers jump. That is enough. The room snapped silent. She leaned over the table, eyes locked on mine. We were drowning. Your father's hours got cut. The mortgage was behind. Your brother had suppliers waiting. The utilities were overdue. You had savings, you had a good job, you had no children, you had room. Room. That word cut through me. Like my life was empty space they were entitled to fill. I had room, I repeated. Mom didn't hear the danger in my voice. Or she ignored it. You were fine, she said. We were not. I looked at Dad. Did you know? He opened his mouth. Mom answered for him. He knew we needed help. That is not what I asked. Dad rubbed both hands down his face. Harriette. Mom's head snapped toward him. Careful, careful, not honest, careful. I felt the last soft part of me harden. I pulled out my phone. Mom's eyes dropped to it. What are you doing? Recording. Calvin barked a laugh. Now she wants to record. Yes, I said. Because all of you suddenly forget things when they matter. Mom's voice went cold. You are not recording me in my own home. You let Calvin record me on the porch. That's different. No, it's not, Dad whispered. Denise, tell her. The whole room froze. Mom slowly turned. What did you say? Dad looked at the floor, then at me, then back down. Tell her. My heartbeat slammed once. What does that mean? Mom moved toward him. Marcus, stop. But Dad had already crossed some invisible line. He looked exhausted, not innocent, not brave. Just cornered by the weight of what had been hidden too long. She deserves to know what happened, he said. Mom's face twisted. She deserves to know. Now you care what she deserves. Calvin stepped forward. Dad, shut up. I turned on him. Don't you tell him to shut up. Calvin pointed at me. This is why nobody told you. You act like everything is about you. I stared at him. My name is on $47,000 of debt. And you act like we did it for fun? The room went hot. Every breath felt too small. I looked at Mom. Did you use those cards for Calvin? She didn't answer. I looked at Calvin. Did you know they were in my name? He looked at Mom. That was enough. Mom rushed in. We were going to pay it back. When? When things got better. Things got better enough for him to wrap his truck. Calvin's face flushed. That was advertising. With my credit, he jabbed a finger toward me. You always had to make everybody feel small. College girl, good job, perfect credit, perfect little life. I blinked. There it was again, not guilt, resentment. The theft had a shape now. It had a reason. They didn't just need money. They thought I owed them my stability because I had escaped the chaos they stayed in. Mom's voice softened suddenly, too suddenly. Baby, listen to me. I stepped back. No. Her eyes filled with tears on command. I didn't want this. Your father was ashamed. Calvin was trying so hard. I kept thinking I could fix it before you ever noticed. Before I ever noticed, my voice broke, but I didn't let it slow me down. You mean before I applied for the mortgage? She looked down. I went still. You knew the mortgage would expose it. No answer. Dad whispered. Denise, Mom snapped. I said not now. I turned to Dad. Did she know? He looked at Mom. Mom stared back at him like she could still control his mouth. He swallowed. Yes. The word landed in the room like glass breaking. My vision sharpened. The condo, the kitchen pictures, her tears, her asking the exact date of my lender appointment, Calvin asking if I was at the bank. All of it clicked. I looked at my mother. You sat with me and looked at houses while this was sitting on my credit. She cried harder. I was trying to protect you. From what? From feeling responsible. I almost laughed. You made me legally responsible. Calvin muttered, you can buy later. The room went dead. Even Mom stopped crying. I turned slowly. What did you say? He lifted his chin, but his eyes moved. You heard me. You're young. You can buy later. We needed help now. Something inside me went quiet, not calm, worse, clear. I picked up the papers and put them back into the folder. Mom reached for my wrist. Harriette, wait. I pulled away. No. Her voice sharpened. Don't you dare walk out and embarrass this family. You did that when you used my name. If you file anything, I will tell everyone you agreed to help and changed your mind. Dad looked up fast. Denise. She ignored him. I mean it. I'll tell them you gave me your information. I'll tell them you knew. I'll tell them you're punishing us because your little house got delayed. There it was, the threat. The final proof that she wasn't sorry. She was calculating. I held the folder under my arm and looked at each of them. My mother standing like a judge in her own living room. My brother, still holding his phone, suddenly not so confident. My father, pale and silent again. Then Dad stood, his knees cracked, his hands shook. But he stood and he said, Denise, she never agreed. Dad's voice was not loud. That made it worse. It cut clean through the room because nobody expected it from him. Mom stared at him like he had slapped her. Calvin lowered his phone half an inch. I couldn't move. For 2 seconds, nobody breathed. Then Mom said, Marcus, one word. A warning. A command. A leash. Dad looked at her. And for the first time that day, he didn't look away. She never agreed, he said again. My heart started hammering so hard it hurt. Mom's face tightened. You don't know what you're talking about. I know enough. No, you don't. I know she didn't sign. The room shifted. Not physically. Something underneath it moved. The truth was no longer trapped inside my mother's version of events. It was leaking out. Fast. I looked at Dad. What did you know? He opened his mouth, but Mom stepped between us. Do not answer that. I stepped around her. What did you know? Dad's hands shook at his sides. I thought it was one card. Mom spun on him. You are confused? No, he said. I'm done being confused for you. Calvin snapped. Dad, seriously? Dad pointed at him without looking. You be quiet. Calvin's mouth opened. Nothing came out. That scared him. I saw it. He was used to Dad folding. We all were. Mom wasn't. She moved closer to Dad, lowering her voice like she could shrink the room around them. After everything I handled, this is how you repay me, Dad laughed once. Broken. Empty. Handled. He looked at the papers under my arm. You call this handled? Mom's eyes flashed. We were losing the house. So you stole hers before she even got it? Silence. My chest tightened. That sentence hit a place I hadn't touched yet. They had not just ruined my credit. They had reached into a future I had not even held and started taking from it. I looked at my father. Tell me exactly what happened. Mom said, Harriette, enough. I didn't look at her. Dad, he swallowed. His voice came out rough. Your mother told me she opened a card for emergencies. My fingers went numb around the folder. In my name, he nodded once. Slow, ashamed. I told her it was wrong. Mom scoffed. You told me a lot of things while still letting the lights stay on. Dad flinched, but kept going. She said you knew. She said you gave her permission because the interest rate would be better with your credit. I asked why you hadn't told me yourself, and she said you were embarrassed. I stared at Mom. She didn't blink. You told him I agreed? She lifted her chin. You would have, if I asked. The words hit like a door slamming. Not I'm sorry. Not I panicked. Not I made a mistake. You would have. She had written my consent in her head and expected the world to honor it. Dad kept talking faster now, like if he stopped, fear would catch him. Then I found another statement. Then another. The balances were already high. I told her to close them. She said closing them would hurt your credit more. I nearly dropped the folder. She said keeping fraudulent accounts open would help me. Mom snapped. Because missed payments are what damage credit. I was making the payments. You were making minimum payments with my name attached. We had a plan. What plan? Her face hardened. The tears were gone. That scared me more. Dad looked toward the kitchen. Denise's. Mom said, "Do not." I stepped closer. What plan? Calvin suddenly shifted. He looked toward the hallway, not toward Mom, toward the back bedroom. A quick glance. Too quick, but I saw it. What's back there? I asked. Nobody said anything was back there, Calvin said. His voice was too fast. I turned. Mom moved first, blocking my path. You are not searching my house. I'm not searching, I'm asking. You don't live here. But my identity apparently does. Dad covered his face. Calvin muttered. This is insane, I pointed at him. What's in the back room? He looked at Mom again. There it was, that silent permission, that family language I had grown up around, Mom deciding what could be said. Calvin waiting to be protected. Dad disappearing into silence. Me being expected to pay the emotional bill. Not this time. I pulled out my phone. Mom's eyes widened. Who are you calling? The lender. Why? Because I need to know what documentation I need for fraud. Mom lunged. Her hand shot toward my phone. I stepped back so fast, my shoulder hit the wall. Dad shouted, Denise. Calvin raised his phone again. Look at her, he said. She's trying to start a fight. I lifted my own phone higher. Record it, please. Calvin hesitated. I tapped Mr. Patel's number. My thumb almost missed the screen. It rang once, twice. Mom whispered, hang up. I stared at her. No, Mr. Patel answered. Harriette? I put him on speaker. I'm at my parents' house. I need you to tell me again what I need if accounts were opened without my consent. Mom's face went pale. Calvin said, oh my God. Mr. Patel's voice became careful. You would generally need to file a police report, submit an identity theft report, contact each creditor's fraud department, freeze your credit, and gather any evidence showing you did not authorize the accounts. I kept my eyes on my mother. What kind of evidence? Addresses, IP information if available, phone numbers used for verification, email addresses, uploaded identification, and any written or recorded admission. Mom whispered, Harriette. That whisper was different, not angry, afraid. Mr. Patel continued. You may also need signature comparisons and proof of where you lived when the accounts were opened. Thank you, I said. Harriette, he added, softer. Do not discuss repayment with anyone who may be involved. Keep records. Mom's jaw tightened. I ended the call. The room had changed again. Now we were no longer arguing as a family. We were standing inside a case. Mom felt it. Calvin felt it. Dad felt it so strongly he sat back down like his legs had given out. I looked at Mom. Did you open accounts in my name without permission? She folded her arms. I did what I had to do. That's not an answer, just it is the only answer you're getting. Did you create the fake email? Her face twitched. Calvin said, don't answer that. I turned to him. Why? He froze. Why shouldn't she answer? Mom snapped. Because you're twisting everything. Then untwist it. Nobody spoke. I took one step toward the hallway. Mom grabbed my arm. Hard. Not mother hard. Panic hard. Don't. I looked down at her fingers on my sleeve, then back at her. Let go. For a second, she didn't. Dad stood again. Denise. Let her go. She released me like I had burned her. I moved down the hallway. Calvin followed close behind. Too close. Stay out of my room, he said. I stopped. Your room? His eyes widened slightly. My parents' house had 3 bedrooms. Mine had become a storage room after I moved out. Calvin had his old room. The back room had been Dad's office once, until Mom filled it with holiday bins and paperwork. I looked at him. What did you move into the back room? Nothing. Mom's voice came from behind me. Harriette, if you open that door, you are done in this family. I turned back. The threat landed flat. Because something worse was already behind that door. I pushed it open. The room smelled like dust, printer ink, and old envelopes. Stacked plastic bins lined the wall. A folding table sat under the window. On it were bills, a tablet charger, a small printer, and a file box I recognized immediately. Blue plastic handle, cracked corner, my document box. The one I thought I had taken when I moved apartments. My stomach dropped through the floor. I stepped inside. Mom said, those are old papers. I opened the box. My old tax forms, a copy of my birth certificate, expired insurance forms, a printed scan of my driver's license. A sticky note with my social security number written in my mother's handwriting. For a moment, the room tilted sideways. Not because I didn't understand, because I did. This was not one desperate click. This was a workstation. A quiet little machine built inside my childhood home, using pieces of me. Dad stood in the doorway, face drained of color. "Denise," he whispered. Mom said nothing. I picked up the license scan. My hands were steady now, too steady. "When did you print this?" Mom looked away. Calvin shoved his phone in my direction. "You're trespassing in private stuff." I turned so his camera could see the paper. "This is my driver's license." He stopped recording. Fast. That told me more than any confession. I opened the top drawer of the folding table. There were envelopes, some from creditors, some unopened, some addressed to me at this house, my name, their address, my future, delivered to the wrong door on purpose. Then my phone buzzed, a notification, password reset attempt, for an email account I did not recognize. I stared at the screen. Harriette.29.mail. My pulse went ice cold. Someone had tried to reset the fake email password. Right now. From inside this house, I turned slowly. Calvin had gone still. Mom's phone was in her hand. Dad looked from her phone to mine. "What did you just do?" I asked. Mom's thumb froze above the screen. She didn't answer. The notification expanded. Recovery question selected. What was Harriette's first dog? My first dog was a beagle named Penny. I was 7. Only my mother used to tell that story. Only my mother cried when Penny died. Only my mother would know the exact answer I used as a child for everything, because she was the one who taught me to use it. I looked up at her. No shouting now. No shaking. Just the full shape of the betrayal standing in front of me in a cardigan. "You made the email," I said. Mom's lips parted. Nothing came out. Calvin whispered, "Mom?" Dad backed away from her like he had finally seen the room clearly. I held up my phone with the reset alert still glowing. "Say it," I said. "Say whose email that is." Mom looked at the phone like it was a weapon. Not mine. Hers, because it had fired too early. The reset alert still glowed between us. The fake email address. The recovery question. My childhood answer sitting there like proof with teeth. She swallowed. "Harriette," she said. Soft voice. Careful voice. The voice she used when she wanted to turn a fact into a misunderstanding. I didn't move. "Say it." Dad stood in the doorway. One hand braced against the frame. Calvin had gone pale. His phone was down now. No recording, no smirking, no performance. Just fear. Mom's eyes flicked to the file box. To the license scan in my hand. To the envelopes with my name stacked beside her printer. Then back to me. It was just supposed to be temporary. The room went silent. There it was. Not the whole truth, but the first crack wide enough to pull everything through. I pressed record. The red dot appeared on my screen. "Temporary what?" Her face hardened when she saw it. "Don't do that." "Temporary what?" Dad said, "Denise." She snapped at him. "Don't stand there like you weren't eating the groceries too." He flinched. I didn't. "Temporary what?" I asked again. She wiped under her eyes. But there were no tears yet. The email, the cards, the loan. All of it. I was going to fix it. All $47,000? We were making payments. Minimum payments. Payments. With my name. She looked at me then, really looked, and for 1 second I thought she might finally understand what she had done. Then she said, "You had the better credit." Something in me went cold and clean. Not angry now. Past angry. "So you chose me." Mom's mouth tightened. "We chose the option that kept this family from falling apart." Calvin shifted behind me. My suppliers were going to sue. I turned slowly. He shut his mouth too late. Dad closed his eyes. There it was. The rest. I looked at Calvin. "How much of it went to you?" He looked at Mom. "She didn't save him fast enough." "I don't know." "Try." He rubbed his jaw. "The truck wrap. Some equipment. Product, a couple invoices." "A couple?" He said nothing. I looked back at Mom. "And the furniture?" Her eyes sharpened. "What furniture?" "The retail card opened 6 weeks ago." That one landed. Dad's head lifted. "What retail card?" Mom's face didn't move, but her hand tightened around her phone. I knew then. He didn't know about that one. I opened one of the envelopes from the table. The statement was already slid open. My name at the top. Their address. A balance from a furniture store on the west side. Sofa, recliner, dining set. I held it out. Dad stared at it like it was burning. "That's our living room." Mom said nothing. Dad looked past me down the hallway toward the room we had just left. The new recliner. The coffee table. The dining chairs. All sitting there under my stolen name. His face changed. Not sadness. Horror. "Denise," he whispered. Mom finally exploded. What was I supposed to do? Let everything collapse? Let him lose the business? Let you sit in the dark? Let her move into some pretty little condo while we drowned. There it was. The truth underneath the debt. Not just need. Resentment. My future had offended her. My stability had made me available. I put the statement in the folder. Then the license scan. Then the sticky note with my social security number. Then I took photos of the table, the file box, the envelopes, the printer, every creditor letter with my name and their address. Mom lunged again. Dad stepped between us, not perfectly, not bravely like a movie. His hands were shaking, but he blocked her. He said. Mom stared at him. You're choosing her? He looked sick when he answered. I'm choosing the truth, Calvin muttered. We're screwed. I looked at him. No, I was screwed. You're accountable. No one followed me when I walked out. Not Mom, not Calvin, not even Dad. The folder was heavy under my arm, my phone was hot in my hand. My whole body felt like it was moving without permission, but my mind was clear. Police station. Now. The officer at the front desk looked up when I said identity theft. Then he saw the folder, the statements, the scan, the fake email notification, the recording. His expression changed. He took me into a small room with gray walls and a table bolted to the floor. I told the story once. Then again. Then slower. Dates, accounts, amounts, my mother's phone number, my parents' address, the email, Calvin's business. The lender denial. The moment she said it was temporary. By the time I signed the report, my hand cramped. But I signed anyway, my real signature. Not the one they had typed into online forms. Not the one my mother imagined I would have given. Mine. The next days came at me hard. Fraud departments, hold music, certified letters, FTC identity theft report, credit freezes, affidavits, copies of my lease. Copies of utility bills proving where I lived when the accounts were opened. Every call started the same. My name is Harriette, and accounts were opened without my permission. Every time I said it, it became less like shame and more like a blade. Mom texted nonstop. You don't understand what you're doing. Your father can barely sleep. Calvin may lose everything. You're letting strangers judge your family. Then came the Bible verses, then the relatives. Aunt Linda called first. Your mother says you're trying to send her to jail over money. I said, ask her whose name is on the loans. She paused. She said you agreed. I sent one photo. The sticky note with my social security number in Mom's handwriting. Aunt Linda did not call back. Then my cousin sent a message. I saw the documents. I'm sorry. That was when the family story started cracking. Mom had been fast. I was faster with proof. The creditors opened investigations. One by one, they confirmed the same pattern. Applications submitted online from an IP address tied to my parents' house. Verification phone number, Mom's. Mailing address, theirs. Paperless billing, fake email, uploaded identification. The license scan from Mom's file box, electronic signatures. My full legal name, including my middle initial. That part almost made me laugh. I never used my middle initial. Mom always did, on birthday cards, on school forms, on anything where she wanted my name to look proper. She had forged me in her own handwriting habits. When the court date came, I thought I would feel ready. I didn't. The building smelled like floor polish and old paper. My stomach twisted so tightly I could barely drink water. Dad sat on the opposite bench in a wrinkled shirt, staring at his hands. Calvin paced near the wall, angry at everyone except himself. Mom arrived last, hair done, church cardigan, small purse, wounded face. She looked at me once, then away, like I had embarrassed her by surviving. Inside the courtroom, she tried it again, the family version. The soft version. The version where theft wore a mother's face and called itself sacrifice. She knew we were struggling, Mom said. Her voice trembled at the perfect times. She had offered help before. I believe she understood. I believed she would want us to keep the family stable. The judge looked at the documents, not at her tears. Then he asked, did your daughter sign these applications? Mom's mouth opened, closed, opened again. She gave me her information. That was not my question. The room went still. The judge repeated it. Did she sign? Mom's fingers tightened around a tissue. No, one word, small, ruining everything. My chest hurt so badly I almost bent forward. Not because I was surprised. Because after all the threats, all the guilt, all the messages about family, the truth was that simple. No, I had not signed. Dad testified next. His voice shook, but he said it. He said I never agreed. He said Mom told him I had. He said he realized later there were more accounts than she admitted. He said he should have spoken sooner. He did not make himself innocent. That mattered. Then the transaction records came out. Cash advances tied to Calvin's business deposits, supplier payments, auto-deterring equipment, truck wrap invoice, furniture purchases delivered to my parents' address. The hidden truth was not a single desperate bill. It was a system, a family system. Mom controlled it, Dad avoided it, Calvin benefited from it, and I was supposed to carry it quietly because my name had room. The consequences did not come all at once. They came like doors closing. The fraudulent accounts were removed from my credit reports after the investigations finished. The balances stopped following me. My score began to climb back from the damage they had buried under me. Mom was ordered into restitution. Calvin's business accounts were examined because the money trail touched him directly. Dad separated from Mom 6 months later and moved into a small apartment across town. Mom lost her treasurer position at church after the court record became impossible to explain away. That part spread fast. The same relatives who told me to handle it privately suddenly wanted copies of the documents. The ones who said I was cruel stopped using the word cruel when they saw my license scan in her file box. A few apologized. Most disappeared. I accepted both. Personally, I changed everything. Credit freeze, fraud alerts, locked mailbox, new bank passwords, new phone number. No family access to documents. No, just send me your social security number. No, I'm your mother. That sentence had lost its power. The condo was gone by then. Someone else bought it. For weeks, I hated that. I hated driving past the street. I hated imagining someone else standing in that bright kitchen. Mom had pretended to love for me, while knowing she had already damaged my chance to get it. But a year later, Mr. Patel called. Same calm voice, different words. "Harriette," he said, "you're approved." I sat in my parked car and cried so hard I couldn't answer. Not pretty crying, not quiet. The kind that comes from your body, realizing it survived something before your mind has caught up. At closing, the pen felt heavier than it should have. The room was ordinary, the papers were ordinary. The title company woman pointed where to sign, page after page, but every signature felt like taking my name back. Harriette, again, again, my real hand, my real consent, my real future. When I unlocked my front door for the first time, the house was empty. No furniture, no curtains, no dishes in the cabinets. Just sunlight across the floor and keys biting into my palm. My phone buzzed before I stepped inside. Unknown number, but I knew. I hope it was worth destroying this family. I stood in my own doorway, looking at walls no one had stolen, at space no one had assigned themselves, at a life that finally had my name on it because I chose it. I typed back one sentence. "No, you did that when you used my name."